Hey all. So, in the first reintroduction video of the Dolmen, I talked about the history of the design and some things about the controls and things. But in this one, we're gonna mainly, this is gonna be like so you bought a Dolmen video, and I'm gonna talk about what the controls do, and then we're gonna listen to it and go from there. So first thing to know is that all the controls are very interactive. Well, at least all the ones in this box here. This is the modulation section. Basically, like 3 sections of the circuit. There's the modulation section, there's the parallel clean blend circuit, and then the output amplifier. So these 3 controls are like your mixer. So this sets the level of the modulation effect, the modulated effect. This sets the level of whatever is going into the pedal. It just goes in parallel with the modulation circuit. And then both those go to a mixer that goes to this control, which feeds the output amplifier, which is a power amplifier. So if technically you could plug it into a speaker cabinet and use it as amp. It's not going to be a very good one, but it will power a speaker. But it's there. I used a power amp because just from experimenting, I realized that it gave like a real like crisp sound because it's amplifying it to such a huge degree. It like really, you really hear every little nuance, and it also gives like the massive low end that's in this like oomph. And it's controllable, so it's not like blastingly loud unless you wanted it to be. So all right, so I think the most important control to really start off with and get right, or not right, but appropriate for what you're looking for, is the drive control. This feeds whatever you have plugged into the pedal into the modulation circuit, and it affects a few different things. First, the modulation circuit has the chip that's used has a built-in noise gate at its input. So this works as sort of a threshold control for that noise gate. So the higher you have it set, the easier it is for your signal to break through the gate and stay there for a while. So it kind of affects how much sustain you get. One of the cool things is if you turn it all the way down, you really kind of have to hit hard for it to bust through. So you can, like, using like playing dynamics, you can get this cool kind of like stop-start tape effect. That while I didn't design this to be a deteriorated tape of lo-fi effect, it's most definitely has those elements to it. It has much more, but that's it was like I talked about in the previous video. Like, it was the first thing I noticed when I was experimenting with the circuit. I was like, wow, it sounds like all of a sudden a noisy tape just starts to play, and it's like warped, and the pitch is all fucked up, and so anyway, and it also affects how loud the output of the modulation circuit is. So, but the other important effect it has is it determines how distorted the signal going into the modulation circuit is. And as you turn it up, you start to like push kind of through the modulation. So you'll your attack, you'll hear the fundamental of your note come through, more than the effect as you turn it up. So you can kind of like use the control to kind of like set how drastic the effect is in a way. It's just, I suggest people set it around like 10 to noon to start off with, and then mess with the other controls and then mess with that. It's really pedal. You need to kind of go through. I really suggest to start off with, use nothing but this pedal, your guitar or whatever instrument you're playing through it, through a clean amp, so you can hear what this pedal does, because it does a ton to your signal. And while I designed it so you could put say a megalith before it going into it, this does so much that it kind of overwhelms a lot of whatever you're putting through it anyway. So next, the form switch. This is kind of like the modulation mode. Position 1 I think of as the main mode, because that's the mode that I designed the pedal around to work best with, essentially. It's the pseudo pitch shifting, and I say pseudo because it's not true pitch shifting. It's almost like this frequency shifter, which is not the same as a pitch shifter. So it sort of transposes whatever frequency is going into it, but it does it in almost like a ring mod kind of way. So it's kind of, there's this dissonance to everything, and it's like out of tune no matter how you have it set. And then 2 is basically that, but scrambled. So it's like as if the frequency of the modulation is like going like randomly up and down, really fast, depending on the speed of it. Depends on how you have the other controls set, but has this like weird like alien voice. It's like really creepy. I love it. And then 3, that essentially removes the main modulation effect from it and gives you just kind of this like lo-fi, dirty, noisy version of whatever's going into the pedal. But it also, so when you have it in position 3, because the main modulation effect is no longer there, like the shift and the descend controls, which really affect the frequency of the modulation, don't really have an effect. But they do, just a totally different kind of effect than normal. And you'll see, it's like another, aspect of the pedal that's different than the rest, but cool anyway. But I already told you, this is the output of the modulation circuit. So this only affects how loud the signal coming out of the modulation effect is. This is essentially the input level for the modulation circuit. This is the output level. The second most important control on here is the shift control. This sets the frequency of the pitch up or down effect, or the whatever you want to call form 2 effect. The scramble effect, we'll call it. And then the descend switch is sort of like a range control. Position 1 is the highest frequency range, 2 drops it down, and then 3 really drops it down. And it's not just a range control, that's its main effect, but it also, each position has its own unique little nuance weirdness to it. Especially like 3, when you drop it, it slows, it basically brings the clock of this modulation circuit down so low that the sound starts to like rip apart, kind of like this bit reduction type effect, but in a very like organic analog kind of way. It's crazy. I love it. the artifact switches. These do things that are kind of hard to explain in a way that makes sense to what they do, but I'll tell you what they do anyway. One, when it's in position one, all of these, when they're in position one, it's kind of like the starting point where it's like they're not doing much to the circuit when they're in those positions. Position one, like I said, it's not doing anything. Position 2 and 3 connect an internal antenna that it two different antennas that are within the circuit, and it pulls interference from different parts of the circuit and sends it back into the input. So you get this like feedback loop going, and you get these weird squealings and noises. Position 2 is like the very, very subtle version of that. Position 3 is the more extreme. And then when you have in position 1, doesn't connect to any antennas. Artifact 2, this essentially allows you to destabilize the power going to the modulation circuit. Position 1, it's the most stable. 2, it gets less stable. 3 is totally unstable, and you'll start to get like a feedback effect that creates noise even when you're not playing, and can be used for its own kind of weirdness. It also intensifies, like, well, I'll just show you. 3, this essentially filters part of the circuit. But the strange thing is, when you have this control turn completely counterclockwise, this switch, its main effect kind of brightens the sound. It has other effects depending on how you have the rest of the control set, but that's kind of the main thing. But then when you bring this up, what this switch does is filters, like removes, makes it less bright, the signal that comes in when you bring this in. I know this is very complicated, but there's a lot going on here. So, and what this does is it brings in this very like noisy, distorted version of whatever's going into the pedal, and it mixes it with the output of the modulation circuit. I recently, like I said in the previous video, I made a small change to the value of this pot, essentially. And it had a completely new, weird effect where it gets gated if it's one of these antennas is connected, and it gets all crumbly and weird. But and the signal that comes in when you bring this in, the amount of distortion it has is directly connected to how high you have the input control set. You know, like I said, all these controls are very interactive, so you can get a wide range of sounds depending on how you have everything set. Meaning, like new sounds come in when very particular combinations are set. I'll try to show you, but it does so much crazy stuff. I want to give you guys some idea of what's happening, so it's not just like, what is all this crazy noise and shit going on? This is essentially like a passive low pass filter for the output of the modulation circuit. So it just like kind of pulls this shadow over the sound. So back to the shift control. When you hit this shift 2 foot switch, the frequency of the modulation goes from being controlled by this control or an internal trim pot if nothing's plugged in here. So you can have kind of like a preset of this that just comes in when you hit the switch. But if there's something if there's a cable plugged into this jack, it's whatever control voltage is coming into that jack will control this frequency, the frequency of the modulation. So you can go from having this set wherever you want, hit this foot switch, go to either a preset inside or an external, say an LFO from a oh, good, my heat turned on now right before I'm about to start making sounds. Yeah, I'll just show you. Oh, and the form jacks here, if you put this in position 1, putting a like an open close type foot switch there will switch between position 1 and position 2, and this one will go from position 1 to position 3. If you put like a external gate input to these, it will switch automatically. So you can either have, like I said, like a passive foot switch or a gate coming from some other source. And with the once you start patching stuff into it, this thing gets even crazier. There's also an input, a 3.5 millimeter input and output jack. This jack is attenuated, so you can take, say, like a VCO from a Eurorack system, go into here, and it brings the level down to like guitar pickup, passive guitar pickup level. And then this output is just normal to this output jack is just normal to this output jack. And since the output can be turned up enough to drive a speaker, it can drive any synth module. And then there's one more completely different than everything else feature that I'll show you at the end rather than just keep talking. So, okay, hopefully the heater will turn off soon, but in the meantime, I'm gonna get my guitar. We'll see, hopefully it'll override the and you'll have to excuse my noodling because I just, I need to get somebody that really, has a strong guitar pimp hand to do a demo for this, but this is just, demonstrating some things. So, oh, that's why it's so noisy. The shift control, when it's in position 1, when the descent switch is in position 1, it's essentially at the like unity frequency position, meaning like right around noon or 2 o'clock ish, depends on the pedal. It's like one of those things. It will be where the pseudo-pitch shifting effect is not up or down. It's right in the middle, so it's almost like there's no effect. But then if you bring in the parallel level, they're out of phase with one another, and there's like a slight delay, so you can get this chorus effect or more of a flanger almost effect, depending on how you have some of the other switches set. I'll show you. First, I'm going to show you. It's actually a really great clean blend. I mean, clean boost. Anyway. The modulation is more, the shifting is more in the low domain, so pitch down essentially. But each one of these descend positions has some amount of pitch up. And you'll notice that the control has more, like if you have it up like this, each of these positions will sound very similar. But then when you start turning the shift down, then those positions have a much more drastic effect. I love that sound so much. That just weird, like squealing, like I don't even know what it has. There's just some, it like puts like weird pictures of like creatures or something in my head. As you can see, what I was talking about, where like as you start turning it up, like the fundamental frequency of what you're doing pushes through the effect, whereas when you have it lower, everything's more articulate. And then if you have it turned all the way down, here are some, excuse me. So you can hear what I'm actually doing. Get pretty what's the word, disarticulate. That position I said is like the no modulation position. I said, there's some position. All right, let's get back to more far out stuff here. When you have this antenna, one of the antennas engaged, there's like these spots. It's like this like weird like shortwave radio noises. Position 2 is a very subtle. That antenna doesn't do as much, so it's kind of like I did it that way so that you could have like varying degrees of it without having like a actual rotary. Kind of have this do something like super subtle just by like making it sound like kind of noisy tape all the way up to like totally, unintelligible. What is that the right one? Just, each note just brings in a bunch of noise and nonsense. See, I was saying like this control, like when this is down, it brightens up everything, but then this, it does the opposite. also when you bring in the this other, it also brings in this level of noise, whereas normally it's, except when it's kind of feeding back, it's, you know, that noise gate clamps down and makes it go silent. You know, there's still new sounds I keep finding with this, depending, like I said, there's like, it's almost like this like code where it's like when you set this way and this like this, like a new sound pops up. I'm not playing right now, so just so you know. As you bring in, the other thing that this other does, as you bring it in, it brings up the level of that distorted version of the input or whatever you want to call it. But it, as you turn it up, it also brings down the modulation effect. So it's kind of like, it has this, since you don't have separate control over the modulation and this signal, because they all go to this one output. The good thing about the way the control works is that you can get some balance. Let me get this. Anyway, it's like I said, all the controls are interactive, and they also each have their own special thing that has multiple functions to its, you know. Okay. Sorry. Next, I'm going to show you. I have plugged in to on the other end of this cable is this device I have called the CVX. It's a box, and you can patch in like a passive volume pedal to it, and it will turn it into a CV expression pedal, essentially. So and it takes a 0 to 5 volt is essentially, it will sweep the range that this control has. And if you go and hit the foot switch, it will go right back to it being this control. You can also plug in, like I said, an LFO. Plug into the square wave out, and you can it'll accept audio frequency, audio rate modulation, and it brings in this like more ring modish kind of sound than normal. Let's see. You can plug in, let's see here. Right now it's shifting back and forth between position 1 and 2. Between kind of, excuse me, you know, the nice thing about that feature is you can have a bunch of different sounds that you can control with your feet. Like you can go between, you know, you can have it if you want like that clean kind of dirtyish, not clean, but what's the word, dry sound of, you know, that position, and then hit a foot switch and go to And also it'll take, again, audio rate. And it also works well with a microphone.
You can just use it like to add a little bit of it if you want, and just all kinds of fucking weird, crazy shit, you know. You can just you can oh right, what about the alien voice? All kinds of crazy weird stuff.
It also sounds killer on drums. I'm going to do a whole separate video of that. Let me just... So the other, cool feature of the pedal is you can And of course, if you plug in like Come on. And it's got stupid low end. There's actually a trim pot inside that you can set the amount of low end. If you're like, I don't know, if it's just too much for you, you can tone it down a bit. I usually have it set around like almost full on. Also, there is a dip switch inside of here that when in the well, it's not the off position because it only says on. Doesn't technically even say, but in the off position, it won't bug out like this when you unplug a cable. And I ship it like that because I don't want someone, you know, having it all plugged in, being done playing, and be like, have it start like bugging out, and so I put it in the off position. The switch is also there so that because when if nothing's plugged into here, this is a switching jack. So when you unplug it, it connects something and turns it into a whole other thing. But since you can't really do that with the two jacks together, if you're plugged into this jack here and not into this one, you need to have that switch so it won't feedback like that. I tried my best to think of everything possible to make this as versatile and as controllable as possible. And I'm so happy with it. It's like, my pride and joy. It, like I said, I talked about in the previous video, it like encompasses all these things that I want for my future, the future Mountainking devices to have, from, just uniqueness and versatility, to, control and, being able to use it with whatever you want or without anything and still have it be interesting and versatile and stuff. So, yeah, I'm going to do more videos. Like I said, I'm going to do one with just plug a drum machine into it because it just sounds nuts. It just like crushes fucking drums so amazingly, and just you can take like such a simple beat and create like this whole other like thing going on, like almost like another track along with it that's doing, almost like a melody. It's awesome. You'll have to wait and see. But all right, y'all. Hopefully this wasn't too boring. I'm doing it almost more for the people who already own this so that they can understand what's going on, because I don't have a manual for it yet. I've been trying to work on one, but it's like it's hard to like say all the stuff I just said plus more and have it make total sense at the same time. And so this is kind of like a, you know, a video to get started with your dolmen essentially. So all right, y'all, thanks.